A July 22nd report from the House Judiciary Committee has found that the FBI spied on a Catholic priest for not divulging information about one of his parishioners. These findings harken back to the infamous leaked 2023 FBI memo revealing the Bureau's investigation into what they called radical traditionalist Catholic ties to the far-right white national movement. Joining me now to weigh in, please welcome United States Congressman from Ohio, Chair of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan. Congressman, thanks for being here. Now, we should mention this priest in question is a member of the Society of St. Pius X, which is at odds with the Vatican over its adherence to the pre-Vatican II liturgy, but their sacraments remain valid. Chairman Jordan, would you explain the circumstances of this investigation and how it came before your committee of this priest being surveilled?
Well, this goes back to the memorandum issued by the Richmond Field Office of the FBI, where it basically said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist, and how they were targeting this specific church and specific parish, trying to get resources inside the church itself. But the report we released 2 days ago, I think there are really kind of two key takeaways. The first one is Christopher Wray doesn't appear to have been square with the committee. He said this was isolated just to the Richmond Field Office. Our investigation showed that was not the case. The Louisville Field Office was involved. The London FBI office was involved. This was a broader effort than just there. Second, he also didn't give us all the documents that we felt we were entitled to get in the investigation last Congress. We've now received those from Director Patel and from the FBI that he now is director of. So Chris Wray kept information from us, told us that this was an isolated incident. He was outraged by this, what he testified to, when in fact it wasn't. And then I think the other big takeaway is what they actually did to this specific priest in the parish there, in the church there in Richmond. That was, to me, what was the most egregious.
What did they do to him? And would this information be privileged? I mean, between the priest and the parishioner in question. I know the counterterrorism unit was involved. I mean, this is a crazy operation they launched against this, local priest.
Yeah, they surveilled the priest. They actually got his credit card information, and looked at where he was going, what he was purchasing. And then they tried to, when they interviewed him, they tried to get him to divulge the information in the conversation that he had with the penitent. It's the priest-penitent confidentiality relationship, which is so privileged, which is the way it should be. Pastor, parishioner, priest, penitent, that's supposed to be confidential. And they tried to breach that. And their argument, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Their argument was, we didn't think this guy had been baptized. He wasn't a member of the Catholic faith, the Catholic Church. Like, what are you talking about? This is crazy. But that's what our FBI was up to. And maybe I should back up and say one other thing.
Yeah.
This was all based on what the Southern Poverty Law Center, much of the things they cited in that memorandum in the Richmond Field Office was information from the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a left-wing group that says that Moms for Liberty are a terrorist group, that focus on the family is bad, that the Catholic Church is bad. I mean, this is what the Southern Poverty Law Center, that was the basis for developing the memorandum that led to the actions that we described in our report.
Yeah, and they targeted and they called it in that memorandum radical traditionalist Catholics. And again, they're using the Southern Poverty Law Center's tie-in that somehow this is all part of Christian nationalism. Here's my question. Why are they so obsessed with targeting particularly Christians, Chairman Jordan? Why did that become a fixation? And look, I get activists on the other side trying to, tarnish and slander people that they consider adversaries. But why is the FBI getting involved in this?
It's all part of this left-wing narrative, I believe, and this attack on people who are, traditional Christian, mindset, church-going folks, people who actually have strong faith. I think it's part of this narrative. If you're pro-life, if you believe in the sanctity of human life, if you think we should have a secure border, it was lumping all that in, but it was basically just adherence to left-wing ideology and attacking those people who are somehow different from that. That's not how our country is supposed to work. That's not how the First Amendment works, for goodness sake. So this was, I appreciate the good work of our team in putting this report together and highlighting just how egregious the behavior really was from certain elements of the FBI.
Well, you mentioned that the former director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, suppressed a lot of this information from your committee. Kash Patel offered it up. Are you confident now that based on this report, your conversations with the FBI, that culture has changed, not only in the Richmond office, but in these other offices that were involved in nationwide?
Great question. Yeah, great question. I will tell you, it's certainly changed at the top. And I believed even before Kash took over as director that the vast majority of rank and file FBI agents were good people out there going after traditional bad guys and doing what the FBI is supposed to do. But I do think the culture at the top has changed, and we've saw it from day one. I think the second day that Director Patel is on the job, we sent him 7 subpoenas for information about this issue and a host of others. And the response that we got from them was literally night and day compared to what it was like dealing with the Garland Justice Department and the Wray FBI. So I do think there's an entire change of culture. I have total confidence in Attorney General Bondi, Deputy Attorney General Blanche, and of course, Director Patel and his assistant, Dan Bongino, there at the FBI.
Chairman Jordan, before I let you go, this week, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard released, or she declassified rather, documents that seem to indicate that this Russian hoax, this idea that Trump was colluding with the Russians, that this was the result of a weaponization of government involving Obama administration officials, Comey, Brennan, and even the former president himself. Now, Tulsi Gabbard's referred all of them to the DOJ for prosecution. Your thoughts on these alleged activities here by intelligence officials and the former president, and should they be prosecuted?
God bless Tulsi for doing the referral. I think that this is definitely should be examined by the Justice Department. The simple fact is they changed the report. They changed the assessment. The intelligence community assessment said Russia didn't hack the election, didn't involve Trump. There's no real evidence. And then they said, wait a minute, time out. They all come together at the White House. President Obama's there with Clapper and McCabe and Brennan and Rice and Lynch and all the key players. And President Obama says, time out, new assessment, put it together. And then that became the basis for undermining this whole attempt to undermine President Trump's first term. And it started literally before he took office. I always point to January 6, 2017, Comey, Clapper, Brennan traveled to New York to Trump Tower to give President-elect Trump his, what he believes is a defensive briefing that all incoming presidents are going to get from the intelligence community. Here's the lay of the land, Mr. President, Mr. Incoming President. But it wasn't that. It was a setup. Because at that briefing, they talked to President Trump about the dossier. They know the dossier is garbage, but they share it with him nonetheless. And then that information is leaked. The fact that they shared the dossier, talked to the president-elect about the dossier, and thereby give credibility to a document that they know is garbage. That is just BS. Same document they used to get the FISA warrant to spy on his campaign. They now brief him about it and use that as a basis to leak it to the press and undermine his presidency, because it's all that leads to the Mueller investigation and everything else. So this was really bad what they did. And I point to, this was the start, Raymond. It started here and then it just kept going. It was Mueller, it was impeachment, it was the 51 former intel officials, the letter in the 2020 election, then it was Jack Smith and all that. So but it all started here, and we definitely need to get all the facts on the table. And if there was a crime, that individual or those individuals need to be prosecuted. So I appreciate what Tulsi's done. It is good work.
Congressman Jim Jordan, we'll leave it there, and we will check in with you in the days ahead. Thank you for your time and perspective.
You bet. Thank you.